Fallout New Vegas is a game with a huge assortment of weapons that you can use to dispatch your enemies. But what if you chose to use nothing? That would leave you with nothing but your bare fists and American fighting spirit. But the real question is whether or not you'd still be able to beat the game. That's what I want to find out today when I ask, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only fists? Waking up in Doc Mitchell's house, I created my character. And at first I wanted to model my character after my favorite overweight British man. But after realizing that I couldn't make him bald, I decided to make him a fusion of Tyson Fury and the Russian from Rocky IV, Tyson Nuggets, the pugilist. Using the Vigor tester, I went with 10 strength for increased unarmed damage, 3 perception, 10 endurance to be able to take more brain damage, 1 charisma because you saw how I look, 10 intelligence for selfish reasons, 3 agility, and 3 luck. Heading to the couch, I selected my tag skills as medicine, melee weapon, and unarmed, and my traits as built to destroy and heavy-handed. With that done, I made sure to raid all of Doc Mitchell's shelves before heading to the door where he saw me out. At the door though, I was given an option to turn on hardcore mode, which both intrigued me and scared me. After giving it a good think, and about 15 minutes of drooling down my shirt, I saw 2 words that convinced me: special reward. And despite not knowing what it was, I knew that I had to have it. So with hardcore mode enabled, I emerged out in the Good Springs. I immediately went to speak with Sunny Smiles about surviving out in the wasteland, and she told me to meet her around back. Once there, Sunny mentally manifested some sarsaparilla bottles for me to shoot, but obviously I can't do that. So I hope she enjoys standing out in the sun and slowly turning into a sun-bleached skeleton. I really wanted to help out Ringo, but I guess that won't be happening. So I took out my rage on this Good Springs settler by giving him a case of early onset CTE. He forgave me the first time, but not so much the second time. As bullets started flying, I knew that my time was up and I fled Good Springs. Heading south, I thought about siding with the powder gangers for all of 5 seconds, but then for some unknown reason, they began shooting at me. Then it got even worse as I ran into some coyotes and Malcolm Holmes showed up. But after getting out of that sticky situation, I arrived in Sloan, where I looted all their stuff, but then Malcolm Holmes showed up again out of nowhere and jump scared me. So for this transgression, I killed him with a barrel. Having reached a dead end in Sloan, I returned to Good Springs to sell off the stuff I had looted. And the brain damage must have set in because the guy who had chased me off before had completely forgotten what happened. Not much happened as I headed south to Prim, except for when the texture started running away. In Prim, I got into my first fist fight and put down the convicts wherever they ran. After they were dead, I spoke with Mr. Nash about the people who stole my chips. He told me that the deputy had the information that I needed, so I had to rescue him. Fighting my way through the hotel, I found Deputy Beagle and freed him from his binds. And then the convicts freed him from his life. Going back to his body, I retrieved his journal, which informed me that a man in a checked suit headed down to Nipton. With a good job done, I left Prim, but on my way south, I found these 2 convicts who were probably innocent and just got a bad public defender, and I ended each of their lives with a single meat mallet to the forehead. It was at this point that I realized that very easy was probably too easy, so I decided to be a little daring, like eating prunes on a car trip, and turn the difficulty all the way up to normal. I tested the new difficulty against the Viper gunslingers at the highway patrol station, and they nearly swept me into the primordial dustpan. So I'm not so sure about this difficulty increase, but I'm no craven, so there's no going back now. Stopping in at the Mojave Outpost, I sold some stuff to Stacy and got a bit close up with Ranger Ghost before heading back down the hill and on to Nipton. On the way there, I came across a strange couple arguing about bottle caps, so I killed them both. In Nipton, I was overwhelmed by the smell of burning human flesh and the purity of the Legion's justice. Talking with Volpez, I agreed to spread the word, but before I left town, I made sure to pad my record by beating up the crucified powder gangers. With nothing to find in Nipton, I headed on to Novak, and pretty much nothing happened until I came across Snuffles Jr., who must be doping because he immediately broke one of my arms and one of my legs. Soon enough, I got the Novak where I sold off everything I had before remembering that I needed to return to the Mojave outpost. While there, I decreased the troops' morale and let Ranger Ghost know that Nipton was now a boneyard. With that done, I returned to Novak to find more about the man who shot me in the head. I started by asking Ranger Andy, and while he didn't see anything due to him being a useless cripple, he did ask me to check on his friends, so I went to do that real quick. In the ranger station, I found that everyone was dead, and I nearly joined them all when I set off this tripwire. Returning to my crippled compatriot, I let him know what happened and had him teach me the ranger takedown. After that, I went to the doctor to heal my crippledness and saw this absolute scrote. With my limbs reattached to my body, I went to talk to Manny Vargas about Benny. And while he was a bit hesitant at first, he loosened up when I let him slip his hand in my back pocket. He let me know where they were headed, and I was on to the big boulder. On my way there, I was ambushed by some Viper gunslingers, and I could have ran away, but I wanted the leader's clothes. Then, a bystander stepped in on my behalf and filled him with lead while I tickled his scalp with my fists. Arriving in Boulder City, I came upon a sticky situation. Not for me, but for the cons. And with my lack of linguistic tact, I wasn't going to be able to save them. So I freed the hostages and let the NCR mow them down. With Jessup's body now at room temperature, I picked the engraved lighter off his corpse. Now it's time to head for New Vegas and Benny. But on my way there, I stopped by a Durable Done sack caravan for the combat armor. Once in Freeside, I avoided the pores and passed the credit check to enter the strip. On the strip, the first thing I did was meet with Mr. House, who informed me that he really wanted his chips back, and that I would get it for him. To help me, he told me about Swank, who's Benny's right-hand man, and who might be willing to work with me. Heading to the tops, they strip searched my body, but they didn't find the lethal weapons at the end of each of my arms. But I didn't want to just out and attack Benny, so I talked with Swank. Swank was willing to work with me if I showed him some proof, and while I had some in the cigarette butts from Good Springs and the lighter from Jessup's corpse, but apparently that wasn't enough to convince him. Apparently, my gay rendezvous with Manny didn't count as credible evidence. So I had to return to Manny and rip his journal out of his asshole, before washing my hands and returning to Swank, who now agreed to serve up Benny on a silver platter. I went up to Benny's room and made the situation clear. He shot me in the chest over and over, but it didn't stop me from beating him until he was unconscious across the counter, and then beating him some more until his soul left his bruised body. With the deed done, I pilfered his corpse and left the casino. But I was intercepted by Volpez, who seems to have lost his dog. But that wasn't why he was talking to me. No, he wanted to invite me to meet Caesar, and I felt it would be rude to ignore the invitation of such a thoughtful man, so I headed there straight away. Passing through the Searchlight area, I headed south until I got to the happiest place on earth, Cottonwood Cove. From there, I took a little boat ride across the river to the fort, where I had the pleasure of meeting with Little Caesars. He was quite impressed by how much I had done in so little time, and honestly, so was I. Caesar wanted me to work for him, and the first thing he wanted me to do was destroy whatever sat in the bunker below the fort. Before doing that though, I talked with Lucius and asked him to teach me Legion Assault, adding another attack to my collection. Now to venture down into the bunker under the fort, where I found Mr. House's second monitor. He was a bit confused why I was there, but regardless, he wanted me to upgrade the Securitrons down there. And I decided to do that because it's not like Caesar will know the difference. Mr. House was pleased, and I returned to Caesar, who now wanted me to eliminate the house. Before doing that, I decided to do some other stuff that will need to be done regardless. I started by heading to the Ultra Lux and starting Beyond the Beef. Hank Gunderson's son, Ted, has disappeared, and I agreed to look for him. First I asked Margarine, who was useless, and then I spoke with Top Hat, who told me that there was another investigator that I could speak with. So I went to go talk with him, but he was a bit sleepy, so I just took his notes and let him continue his nap on the floor. But it was actually all a trap, as some white gloves came in and tried to cane me to death. The trick was on them though, as they thought I was unarmed, but I still had my arms. Heading to the steam room, I met with this guy, and he let me know that the white gloves were planning to eat Ted before being assassinated. Now I had to do something, so I snuck into the kitchen, psychologically broke the chef, and beat Ted to death, before telling his dad that I had no clue who killed him and leaving. You may be a bit confused at this point, but there's a real reason I bothered dealing with the white gloves. I returned to the 188 trading post and recruited Veronica, which you may say is cheating, but all I did was give her the white glove outfit so that she would teach me scribe counter, before sending her to be confined in the Lucky 38 for the rest of eternity. With that done, I headed to the north to do something actually important and deal with the boomers. On my way there, I killed George because gambling is bad and DraftKings hasn't sent me my check yet. Avoiding the artillery, I managed to make it to Nellis with some of my limbs still attached, and for that I was granted a meeting with the high boomer receiver of Social Security. She wanted more help from the younger generations, and I volunteered myself so I could possibly get in on her will. To help out the boomers, I first performed medical miracles on all the injured boomers in the health station. Next, I talked with Loyal about fixing their solar arrays, and to do that, I went to strategically requisition some spare parts from Helios 1 before returning to fix their arrays. On my way to my next objective, I admired this boomer, farming with a fat man on her back. Maybe they did have it harder than us. The last thing I needed to do to gain their trust was to kill some ants and restore the power, and while I could have just done this the old-fashioned way, I went and schooled Loyal on the science so I could use the sonic generator. With that, the ants were dead, and I returned to Raquel before returning the pearl, and now she wants me to help Loyal raise an old bomber from the bottom of Lake Mead. So I did that, and returned to the Master Boomer one last time to receive her blessing. With the boomers now in my pocket, I determined that it was about time for Mr. House to shuffle off stage left. So without even talking to him, I entered his special place and fisted him to death. With the house having gone bust, I returned to Caesar to let him know. His next job for me was the boomers, but I had already done that, so I let him know that the boomers were friends. So with that done, I immediately failed the next objective because I had completely forgotten that the white gloves were involved with Caesar's Legion. So, oops. After I let Caesar know, he had a Biden blue screen moment. Before Caesar broke, he gave me my next objective. He wants me to destroy the Brotherhood of Steel. As fun as that may sound, I don't feel like doing that right now. So I decided to do some work for the cons. Specifically, I was going to work for the drug dealers Jack and Diane. I first helped them out by finding Waldo, and then delivering a suspicious package to a strange man wearing a fedora. And finally, I dropped some drugs off to the Fiends in Vault 3. In addition to that, I used my scientific knowledge to teach Jesse how to cook more drugs. This all ended with Diane teaching me the con trick, which is the final unarmed move that I will likely never use. With that done, I was now ready to take down the Brotherhood, so I fast traveled to Sloan. But as soon as I got there, all the people started shooting at me, because at some point the NCR labeled me as a terrorist for some reason, I don't know. This one brave soul chased me all the way to Hidden Valley, and for that he got absolutely obliterated by the alpha male Deathclaw that I bribed. Entering the Brotherhood's bunker, I was caught, stripped, and probably molested. They made me do a job to gain their trust, and that was a deal with an NCR ranger. And seeing that I'm a terrorist, I had no choice but to kill the ranger. Returning to the bunker, I was now allowed in, and to reward the Brotherhood of Steel for their kindness, I didn't beat them all to death. Instead, I stole the 3 keycards, generated a code, and blew their bunker to Todd Howard. Back at the fort, I let Caesar know of the Brotherhood's demise, but he didn't seem too interested. Instead, he invited me to join him in his tent for a conversation. Caesar wanted to know what was wrong with him. Well, other than him being a totalitarian dictator. And I used my medical knowledge to let him know that he probably had a brain tumor. With this information, Caesar declared me as his personal doctor. Before I could perform the surgery, I needed a scalpel, and likely some other stuff I was forgetting. So I went to the New Vegas medical clinic and bought everything I thought I'd need before returning to Caesar, who was peacefully sleeping. And I didn't want to wake him, so I didn't ask for his permission and started the surgery. Right after a complex brain surgery, Caesar was immediately on to the next thing, which is the assassination of the NCR president. Heading out to the hills near Hoover Dam, I met with the contact Caesar told me about. We spent the cold Mojave night together sharing a sleeping bag, and in the morning he asked me if I had a plan, and I told him that I did, but in reality I didn't. At the dam, I just bumbled around not knowing what to do until I came across the AA gun control panel. I just ended up setting the anti-aircraft guns to shoot down his vertibird before he even showed up. By the way, why do they even have these? It's not like Caesar's Legion has an air force. Anyways, it's about time for the endgame to begin, so I returned to Caesar and was sent to meet the legate. Arriving at the legate's tent, he let me know the situation. My job was to make my way across the dam and sever the head of the serpent, Supreme Commander Oliver. Getting across the bridge was quite easy until I passed the halfway point, and then I was forced to walk through the flames of hell. After this point, I just injected some medics and ran for the dam offices. Inside the dam, I avoided doing as much as possible until I reached Oliver's compound. There, the Olive confronted me and I let him know that he was probably screwed. But the truth was that I was definitely screwed. Fighting this one heavy trooper took me ages, and I don't know if you know this, but there's like 8 of these guys upstairs, and I'll have to take them all on at once. Let's see how this goes. Oh no, this is not good. And it didn't go well. At this point, I had to make a choice, to either be lame and go back and end things more peaceful like, or be lame and push the difficulty down the stairs. I ended up choosing to decrease the difficulty while keeping hardcore mode on, but this still wasn't easy. I still stand no chance against 8 sweaty men in power armor, so I lured them downstairs and don't ask me what happened, but everything blew up, including Oliver and most of the heavy troopers. Even after killing the last heavy trooper with my broken noodle arms, I wasn't free to leave. There was one man still standing, the NCR veteran ranger with the Plus Ultra anti-material rifle. This man was insane. It took me over 5 minutes of just punching him over and over, and multiple times I got him super low and he just started healing. But eventually I guess he got tired and decided to lay down and go to sleep. With that, I was finally free of this wretched cubicle prison. Making my way out of Oliver's compound, I was greeted by the legate, who congratulated me on my triumph as I beat the game with only fists. Here we are at the end of yet another video, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. It's been a while since I last uploaded, so this is just a little thing to get me back into it. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching and wish you a great rest of your day. Peace.